All right, guys, we're going to try something a little bit different again today because I believe what we are witnessing inside the left-wing media ecosystem right now, I think it is doing untold damage if we are ever going to win an election again. Because as most of you guys know, the Democratic Party right now is severely unpopular. And one of the reasons that is because not only do people on the right dislike Democrats, but independents and even people inside the Democratic Party dislike the Democrats. And I think one of the reasons that is so pronounced is because we have cancerous figures like Cenk and Anna over at the Young Turks who spend so much of their time shitting all over the Democrats. Now, of course, there is nothing wrong with criticizing the Democratic Party because I, too, have criticisms of the Democratic Party. But the way that Cenk and Anna do it, I mean, it is just so dishonest. It is so disingenuous. And the example that we are going to look at today is so absurd and crazy-making that I honestly couldn't believe what I was watching. Because what they are talking about here is how Kamala Harris didn't make time to do the Joe Rogan interview, which many of us criticized at the time. But the way that Cenk and Anna present this story and then proceed to argue against a straw man, I mean, again, guys, it is truly the stuff of crazy making. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Here is Anna introducing the story, and then Cenk jumps in a little bit later. I'm going to go ahead and watch along with you and pause along the way. But if you guys do appreciate my work and want to support the show, please do remember to subscribe.
Kamala Harris has a new book titled 107 Days, and in it, she addresses the now infamous interview that never was with Joe Rogan. And apparently, she was very excited to do the interview. She really was. So why didn't it happen? Well, let's start with what Harris said happened, and then we'll give you Rogan's side of the story. So Harris writes that she and Rogan had initially agreed that he would interview her in Detroit, which I don't believe. Rogan is not a journalist and he doesn't travel around the country to interview politicians. He does a podcast, his guests come to where he is, and he does a 2.5 hour to 3 hour long podcast with his guests.
I've literally never seen him travel. Maybe he has and I didn't see it, but it would be exceedingly rare if it's ever happened.
Exactly, so.
Okay, guys, so let's just pause it right there for a second because hindsight is normally 20/20 on these types of things. But everybody needs to remember what was happening in the lead up to the 2024 election. Joe Biden literally dropped out of the race with 107 days before election day, which means Kamala Harris needed to spend as much time as possible in these swing states because those were the votes that were going to matter most. Now, Joe Rogan has indeed traveled to other places to do interviews for his podcast. He did so with Edward Snowden. Now, is it exceedingly rare? Sure. But if you consider that this is the vice president of the United States who is running a campaign with 107 days, if Joe Rogan really wanted to do this interview, he should have been able to make it happen. But let's keep on going.
But then, according to her, he changed his mind and asked her to record in Texas. Harris said that was a big ask, considering every minute in a swing state mattered at that point late in the election. But she wrote that she was game despite reservations from some of her team if they could wedge it in.
Okay, guys, so this is very, very important, okay? Harris is acknowledging that this is a big ask because, of course, it was a big ask. Anytime that she had to step away from the campaign trail outside of these swing states, of course that was going to be a big ask, especially if she had to travel all the way down to Texas. She's going to be taking, 6 to 8 hours to fly down there, do a 3-hour podcast, then travel back. Of course this was a big ask. But the second part is the most important here, because what Cenk has to say next is literally going to blow your mind. She said, even though this was a big ask, that she still wanted to do it. That is what Kamala Harris said. Yes, maybe some of her team had reservations. Maybe there was going to be, it's going to be a pretty heavy lift, but Kamala Harris still wanted to do it, okay? But listen to Cenk here.
Okay, can I pause there for a second? Because I want to explain how stupid that is. Okay, so assume it's true, right? So you're gonna go do some rando thing in a swing state that's not gonna get any media coverage because you're just doing a cheerleading thing with talking points. We saw it, nobody covered those events. Instead, instead of going on the largest podcast in America, where you could literally reach, what did Trump's get, about 100 million views? Something in that ballpark? So you chose not to address 100 million people because you were gonna do an irrelevant rah-rah event in a swing state? Do you know how politically negligent that is?
No, I thought.
What the fuck is he talking about? Anna just read the reporting that said, yes, Kamala Harris said that this was going to be a big ask. She's going to have to take time off of the campaign trail in these swing states to fly down to Texas, but she still wanted to do it. So what the fuck is Cenk even talking about here? Talking about, oh, well, she just wanted to stay in these swing states and do these events that weren't going to get any media coverage. That is not what the reporting just said, Cenk. What the hell are you talking about? This is what I mean, guys. Cenk has just created a straw man, and now he is arguing against a ghost. And it just makes absolutely no sense, even though Anna herself is reading the reporting about this story. And he's completely constructed this new fantasy land in his head, and now he is, getting his viewers to believe that, oh, Kamala Harris didn't even want to do this thing at all, which is just not true. Let's keep on going.
I thought it was a great political calculation, so much so that she's still having to answer questions about it today.
And her excuses actually make it worse.
It makes it worse because the lie is so obvious. But
guys, how is it possible that Anna Kasparian is reading this reporting that says Kamala Harris thought it was going to be a big ask, maybe some of her team had some reservations, but Kamala Harris still wanted to do it? And then Cenk comes in and argues against this straw man he's constructed in his own mind. And Anna doesn't have the wherewithal to point that out and said, hey, that's not what the reporting said. No, she just lets it fly right under the radar. I mean, it is so absurd. Let's just keep going.
But anyway, let's.
But even if it isn't a lie, Anna, it's saying, I don't know anything about modern American politics. I don't realize that going on that podcast is way more valuable to a campaign than doing an insular campaign rally where a bunch of Democrats go, are we all gonna vote for each other? Yeah. That's totally irrelevant compared to that podcast. And to this date, she still doesn't realize it.
So she also wrote, even though most of my team thought doing the interview at all was a gamble, and to be sure it was a gamble, and others bluntly argued it was a bad idea, I really wanted to do it. One podcast was not going to win or lose the election, but Rogan's audience was young and male. I wanted to reach those guys who might not otherwise hear from me.
Okay, so now Anna again is reading from Kamala Harris's own book, 107 Days, and she's saying, hey, some of Kamala Harris's team thought it was a bad idea. Others had reservations about this. Others said that this was going to be a pretty big gamble. And sure, you might be able to agree with that. Maybe Kamala Harris had some authenticity problems, sure. But again, guys, she's saying, I really wanted to do it. I knew that getting on the Rogan podcast was going to open me up to an audience that Kamala Harris was struggling with before the election, which is absolutely true. So even in Kamala Harris's own words, she's saying it's going to be a big lift to get down there to Texas, to take that much time out of the campaign trail. It was, some of my team didn't want me to do it, but I still really wanted to do it. Okay, so let's see what they had to say next.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest, I don't think it would have been a good idea for her to go on Rogan's podcast. Now, once it became a public issue, you really have no choice, you gotta do it. But it should never have gotten to that point to begin with. And the reason why I say that is because while I don't believe this was always the case with Kamala Harris, I've seen her career earlier where she was totally fine. But at some point during the Biden administration, she forgot how to speak publicly. She forgot how to think for herself, how to make arguments for herself, how to explain what her actual sincere political positions happen to be. You cannot hide your ignorance or your incompetence or your failings in a 3-hour-long conversation. And that's what Joe Rogan's podcast is. You're gonna be outed. Who you really are ends up coming out in a lengthy conversation like that.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So they come out to argue that Kamala Harris is just so stupid because she didn't make the time to get on the Joe Rogan podcast, even though the reporting that they are reading on their own show says that Kamala Harris really wanted to do it, even though there was all these other considerations. And then you got Anna coming in and saying, well, actually, guys, Kamala Harris probably shouldn't have done the Joe Rogan interview at all. What? Which one is it? Is she a stupid person because she didn't do it? Or should she have not done it at all because, maybe she would have bombed the interview? I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. Now, I can grant Anna that Kamala Harris had some authenticity problems, right? We all saw it. It seems like the first few weeks out of the gate they came out really strong. There was a really strong vibe. People were happy. People were excited about the Kamala Harris campaign. And then a few weeks in, something changed. We all saw it change. Now, I'm not taking that away from Anna's criticism here. That is certainly true. Maybe she wouldn't have done well. But in my mind, Kamala Harris is super sharp. She is a seasoned prosecutor. And I think if she were to sit down for Rogan for 2 or 3 hours, I think she would have done just fine. But here you've got the Young Turks just arguing against ghosts, making her out to be some stupid person for not making this interview happen, and then Anna coming up later and saying, actually, guys, she shouldn't have done it. But let's go ahead and move on to the next part of their criticism here, where Cenk and them are trying to say that Kamala Harris looks really weak for not going on Rogan.
Kamala Harris, as Anna read to you, said, I wanted to reach those guys who might not otherwise hear from me. So then my question is, so why didn't you? So she's making it seem like her staff overruled her. Well, then I don't want you as president. If I want to do something and I'm running for president, I'm not going to say, oh, Democratic consultant told me not to, so I didn't. That reeks of weakness. If you wanted to do it, you should have done it. Don't tell me afterwards, oh, I didn't do it because I was led by Democratic consultants. I'm so weak I couldn't object.
Harris's team asked Rogan if the interview could take place on October 25th when Harris would be in Texas for a rally. Rogan's team stated that was a personal day for Rogan and asked if the 26th was possible. Harris was unavailable that day and the interview never happened. Harris also stated that on Rogan's personal day, October 25th, he interviewed Donald Trump. So there's Harris's side of the story, and I don't believe her excuse at all.
So again, guys, who the hell is Cenk arguing against? He's saying, oh, I wouldn't want you to be my president anyway because you let your consultants get in the way and you didn't go on Rogan because of it. That is not what the reporting says. What the reporting says is Kamala Harris's team was working like hell with the Joe Rogan team to try to get her on the podcast. It ends up the people on Rogan's team ended up giving her the runaround, kept on pushing the date, said, oh, nope, Joe Rogan has a personal day. And on that personal day, he ends up recording a podcast with Donald Trump. That is what actually happened, but they kind of skirt over all of those details, and then Anna comes out and says, I don't believe that shit at all. I don't believe it anyway. I just think this is unreasonable. From all of the reporting that I have read on this story, it seems like the Rogan team was giving the Harris team the runaround. They tried for a few different dates. Rogan's team suggested a before 8 a.m. or 6 a.m. time slot on one of these days. That wasn't going to work. Then they said he had a personal day and ended up doing the podcast with Donald Trump. What I think really happened is that Joe Rogan moved his ass down to Texas. He has kind of wrapped himself in a right-wing media ecosystem, and he has people like Dana White pressuring him to maybe not sit down with somebody like Kamala Harris, because of course people like Dana White, and Joe Rogan has even admitted that he was pressured by Dana White to endorse Donald Trump. So what is the more likely scenario here? It seems to me like the Rogan team was giving them the runaround. Kamala Harris really, really wanted to make it work. From all reports, that is what actually happened. But here you've got the Young Turks just discounting all of that. They're arguing against their own straw man, and they're making Kamala Harris out to be some idiot, which does so much damage to us on the left. Because what this ends up doing is making, the Democratic Party to be just as bad as the Republican Party. And then when election days show up, people just sit home. That is the type of damage this rhetoric does. Now, like I said, there's nothing wrong with criticizing your own side. We do it all the time. But when you are basically making up stories, when you are arguing against ghosts, when you are constructing fantastical stories up in your own mind to shit all over the Democrats, that is where it becomes a problem. That is where it becomes unreasonable. Now let's go ahead and finish it up where Cenk finishes the whole segment by bashing the Democrats a little bit more.
Whereas the Kamala Harris people never admit any fault. And yeah, that sounds like Democrats. Come to DC and then maybe we'll give you an interview. Okay, which leads me to my most important point. Hey, schmucks of the world that run the Democratic Party, when the biggest show in America asks you to come on right before an election, you go on. It's not complicated at all. At all. You don't go, oh, maybe 45 minutes, maybe you come here and then maybe I give you an interview, maybe I don't. No, you go, yes, of course I'd like to come on. Why? Like if I was the candidate, oh my God, I would have done it twice, 3 times, 4 times. I would have done every podcast 2, 3 times over. Why? Because you're trying to reach people. You're trying to convince them. You're trying to get them to vote for you. Democratic politicians don't even try. And then they wonder, oh, how did we lose? You lost because you didn't even bother making your case. And now you want to try to convince me afterwards with an obvious bunch of lies. And even if they were true, it reeks of weakness. Oh, we couldn't handle an interview. Oh, my consultants told me not to do it.
What the fuck is he talking about? He's just shitting all over the Democratic Party. He's shitting all over Kamala Harris and her campaign for this made-up bullshit that he's crafted in his own mind. Kamala Harris wanted to do the Rogan interview. Some in her team thought it was a bad idea. Some had reservations about it. They tried to work it out on multiple different dates. The Rogan team seemed to give them the runaround a bit, and it didn't end up happening. That is what actually happened. Now, the real criticism here is that, of course, Kamala Harris should have went out and done more podcasts. We can all agree with that. That would be reasonable criticism. But what Cenk and Anna are doing here is not reasonable. They have crafted this story out of whole cloth to shit all over the Democratic Party. That is what is happening here. Now, I just want everybody to remember, just imagine the pressure Kamala Harris was under. Joe Biden drops out. She has 107 days to run a successful campaign, which is a huge ask all on its own. Any time spent out of these swing states where those votes matter most, of course, that is going to be a huge, huge gamble. Just imagine the pressure of the Kamala Harris campaign, especially when you're going up against a freak like Donald Trump. The pressure must have been enormous. And the problem that I have with what Cenk and Anna are doing here is because they're not taking any of that into account. Like I said, hindsight is always 20/20. But was she actually trying to win the election? I think they were. Did they have missteps? Of course they did. Should they have done more podcasts? Sure they should have. But to make these people out to be... The main problem I have with this, guys, is a lot of the reporting or a lot of the commentary coming off or coming from Cenk and Anna now, they just make the Democrats out to be as evil or as bad as the Republican Party. And like I said, that just turns people into nihilists. And that when election day shows up, people just aren't motivated to go vote. I mean, Kamala Harris, the people who didn't show up for Kamala Harris was breathtaking. Had those people who showed up in 2020 voted for Kamala Harris, we probably would have won the election, right? And so that is why I have a problem with this. That is why I have a problem. And let me make it clear. my criticism here is reserved for Cenk and Anna. I think there are still good creators over on the Young Turks network that don't necessarily engage in this type of behavior, but I have noticed this from Cenk and Anna for quite some time now. Cenk has said some unhinged shit since Donald Trump got elected, and I believe these people are a cancer to what we would refer to as left-wing media. I think if we removed them from the media space, Democrats would fare better. I think that is undeniable at this point because they spend so much of their time just shitting all over the Democrats that I think that they are actively harming voter turnout in these very important elections. So I want to know what you guys think. I know this segment is a little bit different than what we normally cover on this channel, but I do think this is very important. I think there are many figures like Cenk and Anna that are on the so-called left that engage in this type of bullshit. People like Hassan, other crazy lefties on Twitch, they shit all over the Democrats just as hard as they do the Republicans, and then vote season comes around and nobody goes and votes. And I think that is a huge, huge problem. If you're in politics, I would imagine you're trying to build some sort of power, right? And I think it's important that we kind of excise these types of commentators from the left-wing media ecosystem because I do truly believe that they are doing damage. So I want to know what you guys think. Do you think that TYT, or at least Cenk and Anna on TYT, are doing damage to the left-wing media ecosystem? Do you think they are doing damage to the Democratic Party right now? Because I think there is a super good argument to be made that if they just left the commentary space, Democrats would fare much better. So I'll leave it there for now, guys. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We've got to build something here on the left that pushes back against this MAGA media machine that just launders all of this terrible behavior for the Trump administration day in and day out. So if you do like what I do here, please do remember to smash that subscribe button. Of course, that is free. If you guys want to go a step above and beyond that and actually help me produce these videos, you can become a member right here on YouTube for as little as $3 a month, or you can head over to politiscape.substack.com where you can have my content delivered directly to your inbox every single day without the doom scrolling, without the algorithms. And don't forget, guys, if you want to support an organization that is fighting back against the authoritarian takeover that is currently underway in this country, check out the link in my description below for the Unfuck America tour, because we could use all the help we can get. And we're going to be traveling all around this country to provide an alternative message for what this country can actually be. We're going to be registering young voters. We're going to be having free and open debate, and we could use all the help we can get. So whether it's $5, whether it's $10, whether it's $50, every little bit counts, guys. And this has got to be a team effort. We got to fight back against this fascist administration. So until next one, guys, take care of yourselves and be good to others. I'll see you on the next one.